Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today, where individuals let their brilliance shine through their stories, expertise and philosophy, because they're on a mission to make a difference and leave a legacy. Introducing Brenda Dempsey, publisher, speaker and TV presenter. Get ready to be inspired.
Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today. This is our new series, Voices of Women, and I'm super excited about this series because it's all about women empowerment, female leadership, and everything that's going to create a new world for us that is safe, secure, and loving. So today's guest is the wonderful, the beautiful Natalie Heilling. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So why not start at the beginning? And the beginning is people are going to want to know who you are, what you do, what drives you.
Okay, so that's quite a big question, but I guess so. My background is like 20 years in recruitment, executive recruitment, and I've kind of led for about 20 years as well. So in my first job, about 6 months into that job, I was kind of like working in leadership, and it's something I've always really loved. But I would say for me and what drives me, really that journey started about 5 years ago due to events that happened in my personal life where I was suffering with complex PTSD. But it was like, yes, it was hard, but it was like a gift, because that's when I started my journey to, I guess, go inward, my healing journey, and then learn all the tools that I use today to help empower ladies and individuals to step into their own power and create transformations, basically. So I'm an energy healer, and I'm also a life coach, and recently started the energy game where I work with private clients, but also I'm taking the proposition out to corporate companies to really focus on more like well-being for employees. So to get to bring balance into the lives of employees effectively.
Well, why? That is massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a great purpose, and I know you're driven and you're on that mission, you know, to bring that energy game. And I love all that, and I can't wait to see what happens with the energy game as well as you've embarked on this journey, and it's just going to get better and better and better. So you've said that, you know, as you started work and you got into leadership quite quickly. So given your experience and where you are today, how would you describe leadership?
Leadership is actually about helping people grow. For me, leadership isn't about creating followers. It's about creating more leaders. And I would say that's particularly important. And I guess like a challenge that I had to learn from managing a remote business. Obviously, post-COVID, there's lots of hybrid and remote models now, but I've been doing that actually for about 20 years, and that's very difficult. So you can't have a whole bunch of followers. You need people who are self-sufficient, who have autonomy working in those locations. And so for me, that would be it, to create future leaders. But also something that I've learned is to be vulnerable in my leadership. So I guess to lead by example as well. So I've always been authentic, and I try to encourage that and bring that out in my team. And more latterly, I've had to become more vulnerable in my leadership style and encourage that again to come out in the team that I work with.
I love that vulnerability. But before we touch on vulnerability, I'm sure as a life coach, you know, you'll understand that we all have challenges. So can you share a bit of a challenge that you had that made you really think and sit up and say, right, in order for me to overcome this challenge, I need to step into those big shoes that I know is sitting there, because you've got that mission of that, you know, the energy game. So people were a bit nosy, aren't we? So people kind of want to know the type of challenge that you had and how you overcame it, because that way they'll be able to go, that was me as well. So
yeah,
would you like to share that?
Yeah, so a challenge that I encountered as a leader, like one of the most, yeah, so I would say, even though I've worked in leadership for about 20 years, probably the most difficult one was I actually created two personas of myself. So I had one on LinkedIn where I had my executive recruitment business, which is still there. And then when I kind of started to dabble more into the spiritual world and that persona that then I created for myself, energy healing, for example, chakras, people are like, you know, what on earth is a chakra? I would sometimes see raised eyebrows. And so I started to kind of naturally veer and create a different persona on Instagram, actually, where I would create my energy offerings and talk very freely and openly about what I do. But one of the biggest challenges, and this has actually happened recently, is that I have always had a passion to, yes, I work with individuals, but I wanted to bring the proposition of wellness and energy to the corporate world. And it really meant kind of, well, really stepping into the uncomfortable and merging these personas, if you like. And this was really where I had to become vulnerable, because I had to share my story of, you know, what happened to me. And what happened to me as a female leader was I became quite ill, and I basically put a smile on my face, and I carried on. And even though in my workplace I always encouraged a work-life balance, I actually showed up to work as if everything was going okay behind the scenes, until, you know, one day that crumbled effectively. And so that was the start of my journey. And then I had to talk about this and share this on a platform where I felt that I would be judged, because what I was doing was considered to be quite woo-woo. You know, if we talk about energy, I do think that people are becoming more aware of the fact that we are energy, our words are energy, our thoughts, our actions, it all creates our reality. And actually, trauma gets stuck in the body. It's energy, it needs to be released. And the more and more people that are aware of this, you know, it will change actually the leadership styles and the way that people interact in the office environment. But I had to get over that. It was very uncomfortable. I had to be very vulnerable to share my story and to talk about things where I felt that I would be judged. So I guess that would be the biggest hurdle for me.
Yeah, I think just letting that whole veil down and standing there, as I say, like it's like you're naked lying on the floor. I talk about the fetal position, and you can't get any more vulnerable than that. And but actually, I'm sure you've learned that vulnerability actually is one of your superpowers, and it gives permission to other people to do the same and share, because we need to talk and we need to express those suppressed emotions, or like you said, you ended up ill, you know. So in your energy game and, you know, the healing, and I love your name. You know, Natalie Heilling, come on, you know, I wonder what it says about Dempsey. I haven't worked that one out yet. But anyway, so do you want to share one or two of the tools that you use in your energy game, and what you use them for? Because I think people would like a few tips. I'm sure they would.
Yeah, well, I guess what I do is I bridge the gap between energy healing. Energy healing itself may or may not resonate with everyone as a term. And so I guess people who are more spiritual might resonate with that. But in the corporate world, I would say to individuals to think of it as an energy reset. I think you're into energy, as I know, Deborah. So we have 114 chakras in our body. Some people say more or less slightly with the figures, but I work with 8 of the main ones. And effectively, as I just touched on earlier, when things happen to us in our everyday lives, it could be stress at work or commuting into work or trauma from our past, it lodges there as an energy block in our body. And then if it's not moved out and processed and released, then it will manifest into limiting beliefs, negative emotions, negative behavior patterns, and eventually actually even physical illness. And so what I do as a healer is I connect to universal energy, or the belief of what a particular person has. It's not my own energy. I don't know if it's going too far in, but I work with, because it's not Reiki, it's similar to Reiki. And again, for people, because that's quite a mainstream term, but I work with sacred geometry, so it's a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
And so I will use whichever geometry is specific to the person that I'm working with. I like to think of it as a blank canvas because we're all unique and different. And so with the different geometries that I work with, they're all different frequencies. I'll be working with individuals according to their needs. But I guess the thing that I would like to say is that with energy, once it's released, we have a higher vibration and we're more empowered. And when we don't have these blocks, we're more connected to our intuition. And it's from that place, actually, that when we're looking to make changes in our life, it's easier to embody and do the identity shift that we need to do in order to become that person, because we are more empowered. We don't have the energy block stuck there. And so that's why I think it works really well to combine the tool of energy work with traditional life coaching tools, because then we can work on our mindset and, you know, our behavior patterns and our habits from that more elevated state. So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, you know, it's such a wide area and there's so much in it, but, you know, to think about life coaching and energy and being, you know, so for me, I don't know about you, but the starting point for me is always about awareness, which is consciousness. Yeah. So if you're not aware, you can't do anything about it. So in terms of what do you believe to be your gift in this field with working with people? What is it that you feel it's like, it's so easy for me to do, but for others, they would be scrambling? So if I give you an example, so for me, it's an I can mindset, and I can back my I can mindset up with a story of when I thought I can't, you know, I was told I can't do this, I can't do that so many times. I can't write, I can't, you know, and then I realized in my life that you can, you know. Yeah. So I was told that I'll not get a degree. I've got a degree, I've got masters, so I've got all sorts of qualifications now. So when people tell you you can, there's something inside you, if you've got what I've got, and you just burst out. So when I work with people, since I've been a teacher and when I was younger, I can help people believe that they can by giving examples of what they've already achieved. So why would they stop themselves achieving more? So in your energy and healing and life coaching, what is that one thing that you know, you're so, it's your conviction of who Natalie is that you bring to the table in your healing?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember to this day, we call it in the spiritual world, the dark night of the soul. And that's really when you've hit rock bottom. And I remember where I was, I remember what I was thinking. It was, you know, that kind of dark point in life. And I remember at that time as well, I was kind of exposed to some of the mentors. It was like, you're not really ready to see something until you're ready to see it. And, you know, meditation and energy and all of those things had crossed my path, but I guess I really needed to suffer a bit longer before I was ready to take it on. And so, I'd hit that place. And then I made the decision, life is not meant to be like this. And, you know, for my children and all for a variety of reasons I made, because everything, awareness, yes, I agree. And then the decision, you have to make the decision to actually think, no, that's enough. And this is going to change now. And so I use the tools that I teach today, that I use today with clients. And so I would say that that's it. So as soon as I started working with energy, I worked with energy. I was shifting, you know, complex PTSD that I'd had for many years. And so it's not, I would say here, you don't have one energy healing session and something like that is gone.
No.
No. And plus I actually work with a few different modalities that all involve energy, and unbeknown to me at the time. So that's what I was doing. I was shifting, but using different techniques from different teachers. And I was actually removing the trauma from my body. And so, and that's what I believe my gift is, because I've been at that bottom place. I love energy. I mean, as with you, I could talk about it all day, but I've come from the place of being at the bottom, removing the trauma. Yes, I had therapy and counseling, which was helpful to a point. Definitely. I think the two actually needed to work hand in hand. But it's actually walking the path. So I think if you've got a tool that you love and you know that works.
I'm asking you, what is that tool? What's your tool?
Energy.
Or in terms of energy. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to be a bit more specific and get a bit more out of you. the energy, and of course you can work with energy in different ways, can't you, as you said earlier yourself. So energy for me is about how we feel and how we show up in our behavior, and vibrating at high frequencies, you know, tuning into the frequency of what it is that you are intending to do, so that you can achieve that easier, so that you open up your energy channels and let that energy come to you, so you stop chasing, because chasing doesn't work, you know. And certainly energy in words, of course. I'm a publisher, I'm an author, I love words. And so one of the things is how we talk to ourselves and the language that we use. Are you using the highest vibrational frequency language, or are you still using words like desire, expectation, and these words that are going to bring that are going to lower your that frequency, you know. So sorry, I think it was me. So listeners, I think I was
and
missing
actually,
the point. I bet you got it before I got it. So sorry, Natalie, but thanks.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And just on that point, I wanted to say, because and something I do say to clients, you don't have to come into energy from the background of trauma, if you like, which is what I did. And to your point there, where you're using it, lots of people counter manifest, and that's basically where you want to manifest a partner, or you want to, you know, have that promotion, but deep down you don't have the self-belief, or, you know, you're maybe people pleasing, or you just basically don't think you deserve it. And so that's all energy related, because that's the block in our solar plexus, our third chakra. And so that's why it's really important to, and I guess that's like, if we're talking about a gift as well, or something that I bring, or I find that sometimes my teachers have been very spiritual, and then, but I guess I bridge a gap again from the corporate, so I can break the language down into something that's more tangible for that world. I've come from that world, and then I actually love both worlds, and I'm sure there's lots of people that span both, but I guess I like actually taking those like spiritual concepts and breaking them down for people who are not aware of them, and counter manifesting, so many people do, and they're not aware of it. So
that's right. And you know, I think a lot of people do it around money, for sure, you know. Oh yeah, I want this and I want that, and then, but they still haven't got that belief that they're worthy enough, or they just, oh, I don't want to use the word deserve, I've just told you that's not a high vibrational word, but they feel not worthy, or they're not enough. And that word worthy is very powerful. So it's about that self-worth, and raising it. And you know, in the work that I do as well, about the words and the language and all of that, it's amazing how you can teach energy in a subliminal way. You don't need to be totally woo-woo unless you're moving into that field. So I don't mind going to woo-woo things, but I'm not a woo-woo spiritual person, but I'm highly spiritual. But I do it more probably in the way that you're doing it, you know. So you're working with energy in a way that people don't think, oh, what's going on here? So they're not put off. And actually what you find once they've come through the journey, you find they're ready to move into more woo-woo, and they start using the language, you know. I call it osmosis, you know, because it's like, when I look at my children, I don't know, and you might be able to say something about this, but when I look at my children and I listen to them today. Now, a few years ago, they wouldn't have used my language. They looked at me and thought, who are you, mum? You know, all this, you know, oh, mum, get real. You don't live in the real world. All these things, I'm sure you've heard these sayings as well. But do you know what the wonderful thing is today? All over social media, they're doing exactly what I'm doing now. They're putting out all these life lessons, and, you know, don't worry about what other people are saying. And you sit there and you go, that's my kid, you know, that's my kid. And I think when you can transform people through what you said and your actions, I call it walking your talk. What do you call it?
I don't know, actually. I don't have a specific name for it. I guess it's just breaking through.
It's about authenticity, isn't it?
But it's also releasing the stories, because lots of people have stories that either they've been told by their parents, or they, you know, from something that's happened, and it's just releasing the past, or releasing stories that we've told ourselves. That's what I would
exactly
call it.
we hold ourselves back from those stories that we tell ourselves. So, you know, this series is all about voices of women, and we've already touched on empowerment and female empowerment, female leadership, women empowerment. So why is that so important? I want to use a better word than important, but it's not coming at this moment. But why does that mean so much to you?
I think it's important anyway, from my recruitment background, that we have a diverse array of leaders, whether that be female or cultural diversity. But I think it's just because of the interview process that we have and the way that women are, we haven't necessarily stepped up to the table as much as we could have in the past. And so it's important now. I want to use the experience and my voice to actually help those women do what I've done, I guess, in the last 20 years, to actually share their voice and to take those positions, because we have a different set of skills typically.
Yeah.
And actually, as organizations have changed now post-COVID, particularly with the hybrid working model, we need those different skills now more than ever. And so I would just like to be able to use my voice to encourage, you know, women to do that.
Absolutely. And, you know, for me, bringing everybody together, it's the ripples of brilliance, because we are already burning brightly. You know, we're the beacons of brilliance, the beacons of light. But when you get them all together, the illumination is tremendous, and the world needs it right now. The world needs it right now. What are women doing and what are men doing? And that's all I'm going to say on that subject. I don't know if you want to add anything, but I think the evidence is so apparent when we just look around this world today, what's going on, you know. And there are other ways to win and to change and to make a difference, but bigger still, make the impact. So with your work, Natalie, what impact do you want to make on this world, to leave your impression?
I actually want to help individuals that may be disadvantaged, actually. So they may have experienced something like what I did and not have the self-belief. So I would like to help empower individuals, help empower ladies, help them, you know, find their voice, actually, because this is, I felt disempowered and I lost my voice. And I think it can happen, well, to anyone, actually, but I actually, that's what I would love to do with my voice.
Absolutely. And I know you are such a welcome breath of fresh air to our, we need to come up with a collective name for, you know, like a, not, I'm not saying this is the word, but like a band of voices of women. We need to come up with but the cacophony that we make is just so beautiful because it's harmonious. And for me, that is so important. And for me, reaching out to leaders like yourself, Natalie, as I said earlier, it's when we come together in collaboration that we will go further. And that I call it value aligned energy.
Yeah,
that's what I call it. It's not just, we hear people talking about like-mindedness, but I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, and this is how we are continually evolving. And I realized, well, I start with values, and actually the values are aligned because we're vibrating, we're attracting each other, and actually it's the energy. So the voice of women is filled with value aligned energy, and we know that that's going to go beyond the universe and make such a difference. So Natalie, before we just tie everything up, what advice would you like to give to the listeners out there if they're thinking, oh, I'm not a leader, you know, why would I be a leader? And what words of encouragement, wisdom, enlightenment would you share with them?
Well, I guess some people may not all be, but I would ask them to really reflect on, you know, maybe why they can't, what their belief is around that. And for me, just as a leader, I find it really important to learn continuously. And I say that because I had one business, which I still have for about 20 years, and I could do that standing on my head. But yes, there's still things to learn. But then when you dip into something else, And particularly as well, if it's your passion and your gift that you want to share with the world, it just ignites that all over again, and it makes you feel alive. And that's the same with leadership. It's a constant journey. Like I say, with authentic, yes, I've always been authentic, but vulnerable was like a whole different thing for me. And so it keeps you alert and on your toes. So I would just say for any leader, continuous learning, what's your passion, always, come back to that. And then actually, one of the things that I wish I did sooner was to have mentors. And I think you and I have spoken about this before. We can learn quicker and get different perspectives from mentors. And I don't really think I appreciated that until I had them myself. And it wasn't because I thought that I knew everything, not at all. I'm quite a humble person. But actually now I think I would always have somebody that helps me fast track me to where I want to be.
Exactly. I call it accelerating your potential. And that's why I'm working with 3 coaches and mentors right now, because I've got a bigger job to do, and things are growing fast. So, it's always who do you need to become, So you become one person, but then the goals change. The evolution gets wider and bigger, it's that funnel coming down. So, wow, I love it. So vulnerability is very important. So that's your superpower.
Yeah, I guess. And just one thing I would like to add as well is just the fear of failure, which I think that I had to reframe. That was one of the biggest changes for me, because I was wondering, okay, would people think I've failed if I'm doing something different? But actually, that was just the perspective that I had once I reframed that, because everybody's perspective of failure is different, isn't it? And then you actually, you can take your power back once you reframe what it means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that so much. And now I see failure as a superpower, like vulnerability. So when you can flip your perception on its head to see something that the rest of the world tells you that's not good, they're judging. And when you can flip it on your head, you actually are liberated, and you find a sense of freedom that always comes from within. We're all free, we're born free. So we just got to remain free throughout. Oh, Natalie, we could probably chat. I know there's so much we haven't even touched on, and I can't wait to see what's going to transpire and evolve from Voices of Women, because this is just the beginning of the Voices of Women movement, and I'm glad to have you on as a founding member of that. So, Natalie, until the next time, I'm sure there's lots more coming. Thank you very much. So, see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Brenda.
That's it for this episode of Brilliance Today. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For more information or to contact Book Brilliance Publishing, visit bookbrilliancepublishing.com. And remember, do different. Be brilliant.